Welcome to Table for One. I'm the narrator, and in today's video, I'll be doing a rules refresher for Six Sojourns. And in this video, I'm going to teach you how to play every single one of the modules in this game, including the solo and simultaneous modes. Let's get rolling. Alright, so I'm ready to teach you how to play Six Sojourns, and I am honestly really surprised that this video does not really exist anywhere yet, because what I want to do is I want to go over, I'll teach you how to set up and play the standard game, but I want to go over all of the different bolt-on modules that are in the book, and there are a bunch of them. So I've got chapter markers in this video, so you can learn how to set up the game, how to play it, how to score it, and then I'm going to go over all the modules, including solo mode, simultaneous mode. Some of the maps have special rules. So we're going to get to all that stuff, and then I will put a solo playthrough on the channel as well. So before I continue, please consider liking the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, and share the video with somebody who you would like to play Six Sojourns with. But this is a relatively lightweight area control game which is played over the course of 9 turns. And so the first thing you need to do is select a map. So I've got map A here, but I'll put up on the screen maps A through H. Just there's a little quick reference on the back of the booklet so you can see what those look like. So there's a variety of maps that typically consist of a number of islands separated by water, as islands usually are. And if we look at this map here, you'll notice that on land there are all these white borders that separate the islands into spaces, and in the water there are these dotted lines that also separates the water into spaces. So we're going to be trying to, in an area control game, take control of the most spaces. That is the primary focus of the game, with other secondary scoring conditions that we will get into. And so let's get started now. Let's talk about the setup. So the first thing we're going to do is each player is going to need their components. So there's 4 player colors: red, white, yellow, and blue. So each player is going to need their people. That's what these little wooden pieces are. So they stand upright like this. Each player has 35 people and 12 boats, 8 houses, and there are components for each player to have up to 3 towers, but the towers, not all players will use all towers. We'll come back to that in a moment. Well, let's just come back to it now. Wherever you are in turn order, you start with 1 tower for each player after you in turn order. So let's say it's a 3-player game. The first player will have 2 towers, the second player will have 1 tower, and the third player will have no towers. Then each player will also start with 12 coins. I happen to have the metal coins, but there are cardboard ones that come with the game as well. So they come in 5s and 1s. There are also some 10s. Unless you're playing with one specific module, you don't need the 10s. So just have 5s and 1s available. Each player again starts with 12 coins. And then you're going to need to find this deck of 37 base cards that all look like this on the back. Now, all the cards in the game are going to look like this on the back, but this is the anatomy of the card, and in this bottom left corner, there are no words on the base cards. So there's 37 of those. If you've got any words of any kind down there, and I'll show you examples as we go, then those are cards for specific modules. So take the base game cards, shuffle them up, and you're going to take the top 5 cards and place them next to the board, next to the 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 coin icons. And then place the deck somewhere nearby. So throughout the course of the game, this is the icon of coins. You're going to be able to buy these cards, and they'll do a variety of things, and you have to pay the number of coins that it says. So we'll talk about that in a moment, about taking your turns, and then you need to choose a starting place on the board. Now, the starting place needs to be a land space, so not in the water, and it is recommended that you place it on the largest island and along the shore somewhere, so somewhere touching water, but it doesn't have to be. But pick any starting place. So let's pick this place here, and then each player places 1 house on that space, as well as 2 people in their player colors. So let's pretend that this is a 2-player game. Each player on that space has a house and 2 people. And now we are ready to begin our game. And so the broad overview of a turn, once you start playing, because the setup's kind of complete now, once you start playing, the first thing you do is you must buy a card. You must. If you have no coins, you must buy the zero cost card then. So that is always the first thing you do on your turn. So you're going to buy a card, and then let's say you buy this, you just return the 1 coin to the supply, you take the card, you shift the rest of the cards down, and then draw a new card for the last open spot. So that way, if cards are out here for a while, they get cheaper as time goes on. And you will place that card in your own player area, and the game ends, or let me finish on your turn. You take the card from the market, pay whatever it costs, replace the card, so you shift the market down, and then you have a number of actions you can take. Some are mandatory, some are optional, and then that is the end of your turn. When each player has taken their 9th card and then completed their turn, the game is over. So you will always have 9 cards at the end of the game, and then it proceeds to scoring. So let's take a look at some of these cards and what they can do. The first thing I want to show you, let's put a card here up on the screen. There we go. Is we want to look at this big green box here at the bottom. It's going to have some icons in it, and this is what the card allows you to do right away. So those are pictures of the little people. So this card has 5 people. When you gain a card with people on your turn, you must place those people on the map from your supply, so long as you have any people in your supply. If you run out, then you run out. But this map, or this card gives you 5 people, so you must place 5 people from your supply on the map. So I've got my 5 people here. You can't place them wherever you want. You must place your people in a space where you have a house. So in this case, I would have to place all 5 of my people right here in this space. So now I've got a lot of people in this space. There is no component limit to any individual space. You can have as many pieces on that space as you like. There are some other limitations, but we'll get to that as it makes sense. And there are some other things. Let's bring this card back up that you may notice on this card. We'll go over the anatomy of the card a little bit later, especially when we get to scoring. But for now, I'll just point out there are a couple icons here in the top left that'll have something to do with scoring. And then this 3 banner right here, that indicates victory points. That's an end of game condition. Not all cards will have an end of game condition for scoring. Some cards will have other things as well that might affect you mid game. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But that's how people work. Again, if you buy a card that has people on it, you must place those people on the map in a space where you have a house, and you can spread them out. If you have more than one house in the map and it gave you 4 people, you can put 3 at this house and 1 at that house. Do whatever you want, but they must all go on the map from your supply on that turn. Let's pull up another card. This one here has a couple of new icons. It has a boat and it has a house. So this card allows you to place a boat on the map and place a house on the map. So let's talk about the restrictions for those. So a boat, in order to place a boat on the map, it must go, of course, in a sea space, in a water space, and it must be placed adjacent to a space where you have people. So in this instance, I could put the boat here in this water space, or I could put the boat here in this water space, because both of those water spaces are adjacent to this land space where I have people. And again, like the land spaces, there is no component limit to the number of pieces that can be in any sea space. If we look at that card again, the other icon is a house. So that is saying we can place a house somewhere on the map. Now, the rules for placing a house are that there cannot be any other houses in the space where you place it, and it must be a space where you have a person already. So by default, the only space in the whole map that'll have more than one house is the starting location. Any other houses that go down must go where you have a person, and there are no other houses. It doesn't matter if it's your house or another player's house, it can contain no other houses. So every other land space can only contain one house by default, and houses can only be placed on land, not in the water. So we have nowhere valid that we can place this house right now. But unlike people, if we bring that card back up, boats and houses can be saved. So you do not have to build them on the turn where you gain the card. So you may choose to place those components on the card, and on any future turn, you can decide to place those pieces. So that's pretty handy. That's a little bit of info about boats and houses. Now let's talk about one more icon. So you can see on this card, this would give you 2 people, which you would have to place immediately, but it also gives you 4 movement. That's what that arrow means with the number 4 there, 4 movement. So let's return to the map again. Let's say this boat was still here. So that card gave us 2 people, so we would have to put them down where we have a house somewhere on this turn, but it also gave us 4 movement. So to move, you take any number of people in one space and move them to an adjacent space. So I can move, for example, these, I can move all of them, or I can move one of them, or let's say I took 3 people and I moved them across this border. That is 1 movement. Now, let's say from that previous card, I still had an unbuilt house. I could choose now to interrupt and build a house here, and I have to place these 2 people this turn. I could place them right here where this house is, and I still have 3 more movement points. So I could choose to take, I don't know, 4 of these people and move them to another space, and then I've got another movement point. I could do this, and you can also move across water to any adjacent land space, as long as you have a boat in the water that you're trying to cross. So I could take these 4 people and move them via this boat to any land space touching this water space. So I could bring them all the way, if I wanted to, that space way up there. Now, a couple things about boats. If yellow wanted to move using my boat, they can do so. Every time they do that, every time they move any number of pieces via one of my boats, they must give me 1 coin, and I cannot refuse. Now, the next thing about boats is, let's say I had a boat here as well. I could not take a person from this space and do 1 big water movement to here, or even 2. I couldn't go like 1, 2 to here, because you see that dotted line that I'm crossing. If I wanted to move to here, I would have to do a full movement using this boat, 1, and then another movement using this boat, 2. That is the only way to do it. You can't chain all your boats together. You have to stop on land after crossing each time with a boat. And so if yellow wanted to do that, for example, they would have to pay me 1 coin and then a 2nd coin for using my boats twice. And again, I could not say no. Now, as you can imagine, people can move. Boats can also move, and they move in the same way. So if I had 2 boats here, I could use 1 movement point to move them both to another space, and then another movement point to move just one of them. That's fine. So boats can move around the same way that people do. Houses cannot move at all, at least by default. Let me quickly set up the example they have in the book. So this example comes straight out of the rule book. Let's say you had 4 movement points. You could choose to move this person 1, then move them again 2, and then as a single movement point, take any number of people here and move them across the water 3, and then maybe I use my 4th movement point to move this boat 4, like so. So hopefully that all makes sense. Now, as I was saying earlier, when you are taking actions on your turn, you can interrupt yourself and take those actions in any combination. So let's take this card, for example, and we can zoom in on it. So if you grab this card gives you a boat and a house and 4 movement. So let's take a look at what that might look like on the map. So let's say you have 3 people here, and you can place a boat, or a house, a boat, and you have 4 movement. So maybe you place the boat first, like so, and then you do a movement with 2 of these people across the water. That's 1 movement. And then you move the boat. It's a 2nd movement. Move 1 person, a 3rd movement. Build the house now, and then move them again, a 4th movement. So you can kind of interrupt and do that in any manner you like. And if your card also includes having to place more people, again, that is another action where you can kind of move and build a house and then put some people and move some of them, and maybe you do another thing, place some more people. So very flexible in that regard. Again, the key is just you must place people so long as you have the components, and they have to be placed where you have a house. Houses and boats can be placed this turn or held for future turns. Boats must be placed In water spaces that are adjacent to where you have a person, houses must be placed on spaces where you have a person that contain no other houses and must go on land, of course. And movement points apply to people or boats, but it's any number of pieces moving from one space to one adjacent space. And land spaces on different islands are considered adjacent if there is a boat between them. If it is your boat, it's just one movement point. If it is somebody else's boat, it's still one movement point, but you must also pay them 1 coin. So that's most of what you need to know. We're going to take a look at a couple abilities on some of these cards. So here are 3 cards that have some examples of special abilities. So the card on the left, gain 1 house when you buy a 4-cost card. So as you can imagine, when you buy the most expensive card at the market, then you instantly gain 1 house. That's pretty cool. The middle one, you may gain 1 movement point each turn. So even if the card that you took, such as this card itself, this card gives you a boat, a person, and a house, you would have to build the person now, or place the person now. You can hold on to the boat and the house if you choose, and you get a movement point on this card. The one on the right, gain 1 coin at the start of your turn. Now, when you gain this card, the start of your turn is already passed because you've taken a card. So it doesn't take effect until the next turn. But as you can imagine, when there are cards that cost 4 coins and you only start with 12 and there's 9 turns, gaining extra coins can be very helpful. And now here are 3 more examples. I'm not going to go over every card in the game, but just to give you a sense of what's in here. So the one on the left, once per turn, you may pay 3 coins to gain 1 house. The one in the middle, each time you build a house, gain 1 person. That is very useful. And then the one on the right, very interesting. You may build houses on spaces that contain houses. So some of these will allow you to break the normal rules of the game, which is pretty fun. So now let's say we're at the end of the game. We've taken our 9th turn. I want to talk about these tower pieces. So the first player, at the end of your final turn, your 9th turn, you may place a tower on any space that you control. And a space you control is determined by your pieces there. So sea spaces are controlled by boats. Boats are worth 1 point each. So whoever has the most boats in any one sea space controls that sea space. And if there's a tie, no one controls the space. People are worth 1 point each. Houses are worth 2 points. So red controls this space, yellow controls this space. It's pretty uncontested there, but when you are done with your final turn, if you have any towers, you may place them on any spaces which you control. So I might, as a red player, choose to place a tower here. The towers don't do anything for control, except they lock in your own control of that space. So if yellow is now the second player, on their turn, on their final turn, they may say place 2 more people and then try and move them here. Well, I've got 1, 2, 3 control points, and they've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So normally that would give them control of this space, but because I've locked it in with my tower, it doesn't matter what moves in here. This is still my space for scoring purposes at the end of the game. Because again, it's an area control game, and so the towers are there so that the first player is not disadvantaged by finishing their turn and then having everybody else pile on and take all of their stuff at the end of the game. Again, say it's a 4-player game. The first player would have 3 towers. The second player would have 2. The third player would have 1. And the last player never has any towers. So you can place a tower again in any space you control at the end of your last turn. And you place all your towers at once at that point. So let's talk about endgame scoring now. So when the game is done, you're going to score from a bunch of stuff. First, each space that you control is worth 1 point. So you just go around for each land space and each sea space, and you add up. Remember, boats are worth 1, people are worth 1, houses are worth 2. You add up for each space, who controls it, 1 point to the person who controls it. If there's a tie, nobody controls it. Then, for each island, whoever controls the most spaces on that island gains 1 bonus point. So here's an island, here's an island. These are all islands. You don't have to see the whole thing for it to be an island. It just can't be connected to any other land. So this is an island, this is an island, this is an island. So on map A, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 islands, 9 bonus points to be had. Then you'll count up all the sea spaces. Who controls each of those? Again, 1 point per space you control. There is no bonus for controlling the most sea spaces. The next thing thing you'll do is you will check your cards for victory conditions. So let's take a look at a few examples here. The card on the left, you'll gain 3 victory points at the end if you have at least 4 coins, 4 or more coins. Coins are not usually worth anything at the end of the game, but they are a tiebreaker if there is a tie for victory points at the end. But this card will give you 3 victory points if you've got some leftover coins, if you've got 4 or more. The middle card, 3 victory points if you control 2 or more C spaces. And then the right card is just -2 victory points. And that's because it's a somewhat strong card. So there are a variety of endgame conditions that'll be on these cards as you draft them. And you'll want to keep them in mind as you're playing to try and make sure that you're scoring as many of those points as you can. Now, the last thing we haven't talked about is the trades. And this is where we start taking a look at these icons in the top left corner of each card. So at the end of the game, you're going to look at your 9 cards and you're going to add up all of these icons, and you're going to see if you meet these thresholds that are here on the board. So this one here is cooking. If you have at least 5 cooking icons, you will gain 4 victory points. Or if you have 9 or more, you will gain 7 victory points. This is exclusive. So if you have 9, you get just the 7. You don't get the 7 and the 4. So if you have less than 5, you get nothing. If you have between 5 and 8 of that icon on your cards, you'll get 4 victory points. And if you have 9 or more, you get 7. Now, these values change as you go down the line here. So at the very bottom, this jewelry making one, if you have at least 3, that's 4 victory points. If you have 4 or more, instead gain 7 victory points. So the amount of points you get, 4 and 7, are always the same, but the thresholds by icon are different. So those are the trades. So again, you're going to get 1 point per space anywhere on the board you control. 1 bonus point if you control the most spaces on any island. You'll add up how many points you get for the trades, and then you'll add up any points you get from your cards. And then at that point, whoever's got the most victory points is the winner. If it is tied, again, it goes to the player who has the most coins. There is no second tiebreaker. You share the victory at that point. So that is the basic premise of the game, but it is not recommended you play it that way because it is recommended to use 1 or more expansions. So we're going to cover some of those, and I also want to cover the solo mode and the simultaneous mode. So give me just a moment and we'll jump to the next chapter. All right, let's talk about how to play the solo mode now of Six Sojourns. So for the setup, again, you're going to choose a space. That's the example I used before. Let's go here. And you will put your house and 2 people on that space, and your opponent is called the rival, and your rival will place a house and 2 people on the same space as normal. But now some different stuff is going to happen. First, you're going to place 1 rival boat in every sea space on the board. So that's obviously different than you. So they're going to have boats all over the place. So they've got very wide access to start moving around, and they're not even going to follow the normal placement rules that you would have to follow. So, all right, there's all the boats. If there's extra boats, just put them back in the supply. That's fine. And then you need to select your difficulty. You can play on easy, medium, or hard. And depending on what you select, you will place 3, 4, or 5 additional houses respectively. So more houses for harder difficulty. So let's say we're playing on normal. That would be 4 more houses. You're going to put each of those houses on a different island. Now, you have the option to really fine-tune the difficulty here. Depending on where you place the house, you can make this more or less difficult for yourself. So if I wanted to go low difficulty, I might put them on some of these little islands. But if I wanted to put high difficulty, I might put it right in the middle of this map over here, and I'll kind of show you the difference. Because after you place the houses, the next thing you do to set up the rival is they gain 1 person in each space adjacent to one of their houses. So they're going to start with a bunch of people on the map already. So they'll have one here. So you can see these little islands up here. It's not giving them very many extra people and spaces. Whereas this space here, this is going to give them a lot of people, which gives them control of a lot of spaces. So that's going to be worth points at the end of the game if you can't take control of these spaces or the islands. So they've got a lot of island bonuses right now. So then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to find this deck of 14 rival cards. It's got the same backs as these. It doesn't really need to be the same, but you're going to shuffle them up, and you are going to place these next to each of the cards on offer. And you do put them face up so that you can see them. That is fine. You're allowed to look at them. And then you are always the first player, so go ahead and give yourself 1 tower. So on your turn, you're going to follow all of the normal rules of the game. You're still starting with 12 coins. The rival does not get any coins at the start. They don't care about coins at all. But on your turn, you're going to spend whatever cards it says, or whatever coins you need to spend to buy whatever card you want. So let's say you want this card. You pay your 2 coins. You take this card. You take all your actions. And then at the end of your turn, this is the rival card that was paired with this card. So you're going to take this out, slide these, and replace just the regular market card. So here's the replacement. And now the rival is going to follow the directions on this card. And they're going to ignore all other normal rules. So let's take a look at what this card says. This one is Skilled Builders. Claim the 1-cost cards. That'll always be the first thing that happens, is the rival will get to gain one of these cards. So they will take the 1-cost card and you'll put this by them. You'll ignore everything on this card. You're going to ignore this, like all these actions and directions, but they will still have the opportunity to score just like you would at the end of the game, whatever the scoring conditions are, and they get all these trades icons. So those are things you want to keep an eye on as you play. So they gain the card that it says, and then they will follow whatever directions are on this card. So let's take a look at what this one says. This one says, place 1 new person on 2 empty spaces. New people means that it comes from the supply, and empty spaces are spaces where there are no other pieces. So in this case, they would place 1 person on 2 empty spaces. But beyond what it says on that card, it is up to you to select where those spaces are. So would you rather have them continue to take over this island, or would you maybe want them to go somewhere closer to where you might be able to compete with them? You get to select that entirely. It's totally up to you. Then this card is discarded, and again, you're going to slide this down, add a new card, and then add a new rival card here. So you're just going to play the game the same way, and because the rival's always the second player, after their 9th turn, the game will be over. So let me just show you a couple other things. Some of these cards will have this hard mode instruction on it. So again, during setup, you decided whether you're going to play on easy, medium, or hard. You only follow these hard mode instructions if you have chosen to play on hard mode. So if you are playing on easy or medium, then this card is just claim the 0-cost card, and that's it. That's the end of the rival's turn. If you're playing on hard, though, they will also place 2 new people on a contested space that you don't control. A contested space is any space that has both of your pieces on it, both yours and the rival's. And in these cards, when it says you, it's talking about the rival. Otherwise, it'll talk about the player. So if there is no contested space, instead place 2 people on any space the player controls. So those are a couple important concepts and something you may notice on the card. One other concept I need to show you. Let's say the map looked like this instead. We've seen these cards talk about new people. That means people from the supply. But you may see a card say something like this. So this one says, claim the 1-cost card, place 2 spare people on a space the player controls, and then hard mode, take 2 coins from the player. Again, the rival doesn't start with any cards. Let me start at the end first. Or it doesn't start with any coins, and they don't spend any coins, but some of the cards may allow them to gain coins in this way. But if they do get a card that, that allows them to score for any coins that they have remaining, then these coins will be relevant. Beyond that, it says place 2 spare people on a space the player controls. Spare people are people that are not needed to maintain control of a space. So let me throw a few more people here. So in this space, we each have a house. I have 2 people. They have 5 people. So as long as they have at least 3 people there, they control it. This means they have 2 spare people. So this card, when it says place 2 spare people on a space the player controls, let's say I had another space over here, right? They would take their 2 spare people and move them over to here. Now again, the direction was just to place the spare people on a space the player controls. I presume I'm going to control many spaces. So if I also had a space like this, it is up to me to choose where I want to do this. So I can take these 2 spare people, probably be in my best interest to put them here. So they're on a space that the player controls, but I still control the space at this point. They have not taken it from me. So it's totally fine to make decisions that are in your own best interest as the player. And so just to reiterate, let me bring these cards up. The rival, again, ignores this whole box of actions. They also ignore if there are any abilities in this box here. So like gaining a coin at the start of your turn, the rival doesn't do any of that stuff. But at the end of the game, they do get all the trades icons, and they do also have all these scoring conditions. So that's pretty much it for solo mode. I guess the only other thing I'll point out is whenever a rival card tells them to do something and they're, for whatever reason, unable to perform that operation, just skip it. Or depending on what the action is, perform it to the greatest extent that they can. So for example, if I drew another card that said they needed to, move spare people somewhere, they don't have any spare people right now. Every person they have is needed for control of each of these spaces. So they just would ignore that action. So at the end of the game, you just score it up as normal. One other thing to mention is compatibility for solo mode. So I'm going to mention this in each of the different modules. But just to put them all in the same place here, there are a few modules that cannot be used in solo mode at all. And that is Sea Serpents, Upgrades, Values, Shrines, Volcano, and Economy. So those are the solo rules for Six Sojourns. Now I'm going to move on to another module. Okay, the next game mode we're going to talk about is Simultaneous Mode. So to play Simultaneous Mode, there are these 4 hand cost tokens and 1 first player token. Otherwise, the game is mostly going to play the same. So you're going to give one of these tokens to each player, and let me show you what this looks like. Looks like this. I'll just put it up there. Okay, and it's really just a reminder. Then you're going to deal at the start of the game each player 4 cards. So I'm dealing this out as if it's a 4-player game right now, right? So each player gets a hand of 4 cards, and you may not look at it or change the order of the cards until everyone is ready. So everybody takes their deck, and somebody says, 3, 2, 1, go. You look at the cards. You must keep them in order. As you might guess now from the little tile, this card here costs 0. This one costs 1. The next one costs 2, and then the last one costs 3 coins. So from these 4, you choose one card that you want to purchase and you pay the amount. And when you do that, you say out loud, what card you pick. So you say like 0, and you take it, and you pay whatever coins you said. The first person who makes their selection gets the first player token. So you take your card, put the rest, don't change the order, face down. After all players have done that, whoever has the first player token then gives the token to whoever let me put it this way. Whoever has the token decides who will be the first player, and turns will go in clockwise order. So then one at a time, you will play the card that you selected, having your normal turn, taking the actions that it says. At the end of the turn, everybody has taken a card, right, from somewhere in the deck. You will then add one new card from the deck to the bottom of each of these decks. So it'll be the 3-cost card, and then everybody takes their hand and passes it clockwise. So you get the next person's hand. And then again, 3, 2, 1, go. You flip it over, and again, the cost is 0, 1, 2, and 3 coins. So that's a pretty interesting variation on how to do some of that selection simultaneously. It obviously changes some things because the market is a lot harder to keep track of because it goes round and around the table. If there's a card you want in the normal game, you can kind of look and figure out if you might be able to get it in 2 turns, whereas here you don't know if by the time it comes back around, 4 turns from now, is that card still going to be here? Am I going to want it? So it definitely changes the dynamic some. The only other thing you need to know about simultaneous mode is on the 9th turn, everybody buys whatever card they want, and then you select who's going to be first. And at that time, before that first person starts taking their actions, that is the time to then pass out towers. So whoever gets that first player token gets the in a 4-player game, they would get 3 towers, and the next person would get 2 and 1, and whoever's the last player would get no towers. So the towers would follow the same rules. It's just completely dictated by who is the first player on the last turn. So that is how you play the simultaneous mode of Six Sojourns. All right, the next module I want to talk about is just playing on map D. That is this map here. When you play on map D, just the setup is a little bit different. Players don't start on a shared space on this map. Instead, each player starts on a different corner island of the map. So 1, 2, 3, 4 corner islands. Each player picks a different island and puts their starting place wherever they want on that island. And those selections are just made in turn order. And that's it. That's the only difference on this map. So that is map D. The next specific map to talk about is map F. These are the trade isles, and this one just has one minor difference, and it reminds you of it right here on the board. At the end of the game, if you control the most sea spaces, you gain an additional 4 victory points. And in this case, if there's a tie for control of the most sea spaces, all tied players receive the bonus points. So that is how you play on map F, the trade isles. And the last special rules for a map is for map G. This is lakes. So instead of islands, there are lakes on this map. And when a card objective includes the word island, replace it with the word lake. So it's actually kind of a big change. Each lake that you control, so there's 1, 2, 3 lakes. Each lake you control at the end of the game is worth 4 victory points. And as usual, to control a lake, you must control the most spaces in the lake. There are no ties in this map. And then as for the land, it's all considered one island. So as usual, the land spaces are 1 point each, and then there's only 1 bonus point to be had from all of the land. And I think it's pretty clear what's going on with this middle lake here, but I'll just point out this lake in the bottom has 2 spaces, and this lake is a single space. So those are the special rules for map G lakes. All right, the next expansion I'm going to talk about is Places. So when you play the Places expansion, you're going to add 9 cards to your deck of basic cards, and these will all be labeled. So I have an example here, and you can see right here it's labeled Places A because this is map A. So there are 9 cards for Places A, 9 cards for Places B, etc. So find the deck that matches the map you are playing, and if you look at these, you'll notice that they're showing artwork that relates to various locations that are on this game board. So I'm not going to place them all. Well, maybe I will because I'm already kind of going. So here's where they are in this particular instance. These 9 places. And so what each of these cards are going to do is they're going to give you between 3 and 4 victory points, most often 3, but sometimes 4 victory points, if you control the indicated space at the end of the game. Beyond that, they have the typical trades icons. They give you regular actions. So you're just going to shuffle all of these into the deck at the start of the game. And, you'll see some of them. You probably won't see all of them. And, yeah, you're just trying to control the spaces that are indicated. So I really like this one because it's very simple to understand, very quick to set up, and it's really not difficult to separate these back out at the end either. Because again, all the basic cards don't have any text there. So all the ones that say Places A, you just shuffle them out and then you're all done. So I think that one's pretty clear. That's Places. And again, there is a deck for each of the 8 maps. The next expansion to talk about is Trades tokens. So those are these tokens here. There are 14 of them, and they're double-sided, and they're paired off in an interesting way. So you can see that there are 2 here with the cooking icon, and on the back side, they're cooking as well. But the rest of these, we've got, let's see, hammers are here and jewelry's here. You can see on the back of jewelry is hammers and vice versa. They're paired off that way. And then shirts and swords are paired off. And finally, art and shoemaking is paired off. So to play with this expansion, you're going to take all these tokens. It could be helpful to use a bag, like a draw bag, but you're going to place these tokens one at a time on any space on the map. Each space can only contain 1 token, but water spaces are valid placements as well. And I say you might want to use a bag because you want to randomize them. So the other thing you can do is just like pick a space like here, take a random token and like flip it. Oops, well, that one's gone. Like this. Okay, so you get a random size. You just want to place them randomly all over the map, and you're going to place all of them out. So let's say that they're all placed. Then the only thing you have to do is at the end of the game, If you control a region with a token, you gain that token. Don't flip it over, like gain it for what it says. And that is one more icon that you have when you go to score your trades at the end of the game. If a space is contested and more than one person, or if a space is tied, if nobody controls a space, then nobody gets the token. So again, that's a pretty simple module to add, and it is very flexible in terms of the placement. You're going to get variability because these may not come out in a necessarily equal distribution each time you play. So that is how you use the trades module. The next expansion to go over is Specialties. Specialties is just going to be these 11 cards that are all labeled with the word Specialties here. So again, these are just regular cards that you can get, but as you can see here, the scoring conditions at the end of the game, this one will give you 3 victory points if you have 3 or more jewelry making trades. And it doesn't matter where those trade icons are coming from. Typically those come from cards, but if you're playing with the trade tokens expansion as well, you can get them from trade tokens. And then let me give you one other example. This card here is going to give you 3 victory points if you have 7 or more sewing and shoemaking combined. So you can achieve, 7 or more with 3 sewing and 4 shoemaking. That would accomplish this for you. So that's pretty much how all of these cards are going to be. Let me show you one specific one though. This one here says 3 victory points at the end if you control 4 or more trade tokens. So this one can only be used if you are playing with the trade tokens expansion. So if you're not playing with that one as well as Specialties, then maybe shuffle this one out and just play with the other 10. Otherwise, that is all you need to know to play with the Specialties expansion. The next expansion to go over is Upgrades, and this one is not solo compatible. This one is going to include 10 cards as well as 10 tokens. And so to start, you take all 10 cards and you shuffle them into the main deck, and I will show you these. Of course, they all say Upgrades on them, but they all have this this immediate ability here, upgrade a trade. So whenever you gain a card that says upgrade a trade like that, you are required to place one of these upgrade tokens, and you place any token that has not been used yet. So there are 10 cards, 10 tokens, and let me just lay them out here so we talk about the distribution of these. The range on these is -2 to +2, but there's 1 -2, 2 -1s, 5 +1s, and 2 +2s. So when you get a card that has this upgrade a trade action, you must take one of these tokens, you choose which one, maybe we want the +2, and place it in one of these spots next to any one of the trades. So maybe we put it here. And what this is saying is that at the end of the game, if anyone meets, this is for all players, if anyone meets one of these thresholds for that trade, they get this many points in addition to this many points. So you could, in theory, if you had 7 sewing icons here, 7 shirts, you could get 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 victory points for it. Or, if you play differently, maybe your opponent is going for sewing, so they get these 5. So that's normally 4 victory points, but -1, 2, and 3, so they only get 1 victory point instead of 4. So again, these apply to all players. Each of the trades can have up to 2 tokens next to it, and each time you gain a card that says upgrade a trade, you place any one of these tokens by any one of these open spaces, and it will affect the victory point value for each of these columns for all players at the end of the game. So again, that one is not solo compatible, but that is the upgrade module for Six Sojourns. All right, the next expansion to go over is Sea Serpents. This one is also not solo compatible, which is unfortunate because these Sea Serpent deluxe wooden upgrades are really lovely. I think the game normally comes with cardboard components, but I've got these upgrades and I really like them, but not solo compatible. But anyway, to play with the Sea Serpents expansion, there are 9 Sea Serpents cards that are going to shuffle into the deck, and there are also these 8 Sea Serpent tokens. So let me show you the cards here. They're going to have they'll be labeled here with the Sea Serpents text, so you can quickly find them, and you see that they say place a Sea Serpent. So when you gain one of these cards, you must place a Sea Serpent token in any sea space that you want. Any sea space is fine. but it is not optional. So you place a sea serpent token on a sea space, then each player that has at least one boat in that space must immediately pay you 1 coin. If they don't have any coins, then they don't have to pay anything. There's no penalty. But then at the end of the game, each sea serpent gives 1 victory point to the player that controls its space, and sea spaces may contain any number of sea serpents. So if you're placing these in spaces where other players have boats, you're taking their coins now, but if assuming they control that space, you're giving them victory points later, unless you kind of work to go get it. And so you may have noticed I said that there were 8 tokens and 9 cards, and each card says place a sea serpent, so you must do that. So 8 cards say that. The last card says remove a sea serpent from the board and place it again. So that's why there's 1 more card than sea serpents. And I suppose if that's the first one to come out, then you just can't do anything because there are none that have been placed. But that is how you play with the Sea Serpents expansion. The next module to go over is values, and this one is not solo compatible. It is just these 4 cards, and they're starting cards. So at the start of the game, you shuffle these up, you pass one out to each player. They are not secret after you've passed them out. They are public information. So let's take a look at the cards here. So you can see each one of these gives the player a unique ongoing ability and a unique scoring condition. So if we go through the abilities from left to right, from trades, building, the sea, and cunning, you have 1 wild trade at game end. So that means, down here during end of game scoring, when you're figuring out these trades, you can give yourself any one of them, 1 extra. So that can be very helpful. Going back to the cards here for building, you may build houses in spaces that already contain houses. For the sea, you control sea spaces where you are tied for most ships. And for cunning, you start the game with 4 extra coins. And then, as I said, each has special victory conditions. So again, from left to right, if you have trades, then each trade that you reach 7 victory points is worth plus 2 victory points for you. So again, if we go back to the board here, if you have this many trades, this many in this first column of any of these trades, you get 4 victory points. If you have this many of that trade, you normally get 7, but in reality, it's worth 9 for you. And that pairs really nice with the 1 wild trade. Going back to the cards, if we look at the building value, 1 extra VP per space you control that has at least 1 house. So you want to take over spaces with other people's houses and get a bunch of points for it. For the sea, 1 extra victory point per sea space you control. And finally, for cunning, each card VP ability is worth plus 1 for you. So you want to achieve a lot of your card victory point conditions. So that is how you play the values mini expansion to Six Sojourns. The next expansion to go over is Feuds, and all you have to do is add this 1 card to the game, and it just sits next to the game board where everybody can see it. The only choice you have to make during setup is which side to use. It's double-sided, so I'll show you both sides. So this is the Feuds side, and it says, all players, plus 1 victory point per space you control that has at least 1 opponent's piece. So this is encouraging a little bit more aggression, a little bit more, trying to take over your opponent's territory. If we flip the card over, and we will find on the back we have Fierce Feuds. This is the same thing, but instead of plus 1 victory point, it's plus 2 victory points per space you control that have at least 1 opponent's piece on them. So this one is solo compatible, and it's just a little something fun with the scoring conditions, so very easy to add this one to your games of Six Sojourns as well. All right, now let's take a look at the exploration expansion. So this one has got these 20 exploration tokens that I've got them all face up right now. There's 1 for each of the trade icons. 2 of them have a coin, 4 have a boat, 3 have a person, 3 have a house, and 1 just has a victory point on it. At the start of the game, you're going to flip these all upside down and shuffle them up so that you don't know which is which, and you're going to place them all over the map. You can place them anywhere. You can place them on land or in the water, and you just cannot have more than 1 per location. So put them all over the place. We don't really care where they are right now, and the rules do explicitly say that they can go in the water, so go ahead and do that too. And This one is solo compatible. I'll give you some thoughts on that in just a minute. So I think I've done that here. There's no more than one per region. And then during play, if you have at least one person on a space with an explore token, you can spend one movement point to claim the token. So if I had a person here and I had one movement point, I could spend the movement point to take this token. And this one happens to have a house on it. So when you take the token, you turn it face up, place it in front of you. If it's a person, you must place the person immediately. If it's a trade, if it's any of these trade icons, then you keep that for the end of the game. If it's coins, immediately turn it in to gain the coin. If it's a boat or a house, you can build it immediately, or you can save it in front of you and spend it later, just like you normally would with a boat or house, to place one of those on a future turn. So you just keep the explore token in that case until you've placed it. And that's it. So the one thing I want to clarify here is it says if you've got a person on a space, spend a movement point. But it goes out of its way to say that you can place these in the water too. So I'm going to go ahead and assume it's if you have a person or a boat on a space, you can spend a movement point. So instead of moving your boat, you can grab one of those trade tokens or one of these exploration tokens as well. And then this is a, like I said, solo compatible expansion, but there are no rules or any indications on how the solo opponent would, the solo rival would interact with this. So I just assume they don't interact with it at all. These are only available for you to get. But that is how you play with the exploration tokens expansion. The next expansion for Six Sojourns to go over is the Mountains expansion. So for this expansion, there are these 8 mountain tokens. I've got the wooden pieces, but you might have cardboard ones. So there are 8 mountain tokens that you place on the board during setup. So you place these no more than one per space. They can only go on land. It is suggested you place them in spaces that have mountainous artwork, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. But again, no more than one mountain per land. So go ahead and place them wherever you want to place them. Use all 8 or use fewer than 8 if you want. It's up to you. And then during gameplay, spaces with mountains are more difficult to enter. So when moving into a space with a mountain token, you can only move one person at a time. So if you had 3 people here and you wanted them all to go there, that would use 3 movement points. And then at the end of the game, each space you control that has a mountain token is worth 1 additional victory point. Now, importantly, if you're playing solo, remember that the solo opponent, the rival, does not need to move at all. They just place pieces all over. So as you're placing pieces, you probably don't want to give them the mountains because they'll have an easier time holding it and they'll gain extra victory points. But you, as the human player, still need to spend the extra movement points to get into the mountainous regions. So that is how to play with the Mountains module for Six Sojourns. The next expansion to go over is the Shrines expansion. And so I've got these 3 wooden shrine tokens here. You might have cardboard, but at the beginning of the game, each player starts with 3 shrines in their supply. And I should say that the Shrines expansion is not compatible with solo mode. But when playing with shrines, on your turn, you may place 1 shrine from your supply on any space, any land space on the board where you have a person and there's at least 1 person or house belonging to another player. So in this example, if I am yellow, I can't place here or here because there's no other player. I can't place here even though we both share this space because I only have a house. I have to have it a place where I have a person and at least 1 other player has a person or house. So you can place a shrine once per turn as long as you have shrines left in your supply on a space where you have a person and another player also has a person or a house. Then at the end of the game, each shrine gives 1 victory point to the player that controls the space, and a single space may contain any number of shrines. So that one's pretty simple and interesting. Unfortunately, it's not compatible with solo mode, but that is how to play the Shrines expansion. The next expansion for Six Sojourns to go over is the Airships module, and this one is solo compatible. Inexplicably, it's one of my favorites. So you just have these 2 airship tokens. Again, I've got the wooden tokens. You might have cardboard, but during setup, place the 2 airships on 2 different land spaces, anywhere on the board that you want. Then during gameplay, when you are starting on a space that has an airship, you may pay 1 coin to use 1 movement point to go from that space to any land space on the board. So if you've got people on a space with an airship, you can pay 1 coin, do a normal movement using 1 movement point to move those, however many of those people you want, to any land space anywhere. And when you do that, you do not move the airship. So think of it like you're hitching a ride with it, like it's going to fly you over to here, and then it always comes back to its dock, wherever it started from. And that's it. Just don't forget, you've got to pay a coin each time you do that. So you could have, a group of people here and they move, and then you pay a coin and use the airship to go over here, and then maybe they move again across the water, something like that. But that is how the airships module works. Very simple. I really enjoy that one. All right, the next expansion to go over is Volcanoes. This is another one that sadly does not work with solo mode, but this one has one volcano piece and then a number of lava pieces. Again, mine are wooden. You might be using cardboard, but you're going to take all of these lava tokens and you're going to place them somewhere over here near the 0 and 1 cost cards. Of course, I don't have any cards there right now, so I'm just going to dump that big pile there. And then let me show you these maps again. If you are playing on a map that has volcanoes on it, such as map C or map D, you just use the volcanoes that are on the map. Otherwise, if you are using map A here, there's no volcanoes on it, you can take this volcano token and place it anywhere you want on land on the map. We'll say here. So while you're playing the game, whenever a player purchases a cost 1 or cost 0 card, they must immediately pick up a lava token and place it on the map. And the placement rules are as follows. It may be placed on the volcano space itself. It may be placed on a land space that already has a lava token, or it may be placed on a land space adjacent to a lava token. So the first time this happens, you'll have to place it on the volcano space. The next time, you can place it on that same space or adjacent to that space, any adjacent space. And then the next time, you can place it on either of those spaces or any adjacent spaces. So you can continue to build up these lava tokens. The lava tokens act as a neutral control. So to control a space with a lava token, you have to have more people and houses, which are worth 2, than there are lava tokens. So each of these are just kind of worth 1 person, and they belong to a neutral faction. So they can control spaces so that none of the human players are able to control that space, or they can take control from you. And again, that affects not only who gets the point for that space. If it's the neutral, if there's more lava tokens than any people, nothing happens. And then if it's a tie, like between a person and the lava tokens, again, no one controls the space. The ties are not friendly. So it could wrest control of a space from a player, but also that'll come into account when you're figuring out who controls the most spaces on any particular island. So again, sadly, this one is not solo compatible, but I do think it's really interesting. That's pretty fun. So I do like the Volcano expansion. And so that's how you play it. Okay, and the last expansion to go over is the Economy expansion, and this is the big one. It is not solo compatible, unfortunately, but it really, really changes the way this game plays. So first of all, I can fit it on the screen, but you will play with 2 maps simultaneously. So you will set them side by side, and you will select a starting space for each map, and then each player will, as normal, place 1 house and 2 people on the starting space for each map. All the rest of your houses will go here on this economy board that you have. And I should mention, each player will start with 6 additional houses, 4 additional boats, and 15 additional people. So then go ahead and finish setting up the houses on each space of this housing track, and you will take this track marker and put it in the leftmost space on each of these tracks. You have 5 tracks. Now, when setting up the card deck, you have to have at least 60 cards, so you need to add expansions until you can reach that number. Again, for reference, the base deck has 37 cards, so you need to add at least 23 more. And if you want to play with the Places expansion, make sure that you add the places for both of the maps. That would make the most sense. And then at the start of the game, each player begins with only 4 coins instead of 12. But you're going to want to, if you're playing with this expansion, use the denomination of 10 coins as well. So up until now, we'd only used the 1s and the 5s, but this would be an appropriate time to add in the 10s if you have those, or at least have them handy in the supply. Again, each player only starts with 4. And then the rulebook's not clear about this, but my understanding is you will only use one market of cards between the 2 boards. You won't have 2 sets of cards to choose from. So you'll place these side by side. You'll only use 1 set. So only 5 cards total on offer, not 10. And then during the course of play, when you gain a card, you will add it to the left side of your player board. Then go ahead, take your actions as normal. And note that when you're taking actions, you can split the actions between the 2 maps however you want. So for example, if you have 4 movement points, you can do 2 on this map and 2 on this map, but the maps are still considered separate. You cannot move between the maps. They're separate places. You can't go from one to the other. But you can split your actions between them. So you could place a house here and a boat here and split up your movement. That's fine. And then note that any card objectives that have map-based requirements only need to be filled on one of the 2 maps. So for example, if you've got a card that says 3 victory points if you control 2 or more islands, just assume it says 3 victory points if you control 2 or more islands on at least one map. So you need to control 2 or more islands on this map or on this map in order to achieve the card. But you cannot split that between. You can't have 1 island on this map and 1 island on this map. That wouldn't be enough. So as another example, if you have the card that says 3 victory points if you control more sea spaces than any other player, again, assume it says 3 victory points if you control more sea spaces than any player on any one map. So you can only score it once. Even if you have the most sea spaces on both maps, you still only score it 1 time. But if you achieve it at least once, you can score it. So then on your turn, again, you start by gaining a card, take any actions you want to take, and then at the end of your turn, you have the option to develop any of your cards, which is going to involve moving them from the left side of your player mat to the right side. Developing is optional. And then the very last step is after you've developed or declined to develop, you gain coins. And you gain coins for any coins that are to the left of any of your track markers. And as you place houses during the game, you will start from the left and continue to place from the left. So any revealed tokens or coins, they're on every other space there. Those will earn you coins at the end of your turn as well. So you will get an income as the very last part of your turn after the new development step, which comes after the action step. So let's talk about development. When you develop a card, you just take it and you move it from the left side of your board to the right side. But when you do that, you look at all the icons on it. And each of these tracks can be advanced if you have the icons indicated that you're developing. And so this one has a shirt and cooking, the sewing and cooking, and those are on different tracks. So developing this by itself would do nothing. However, if I develop it with this card, now I've got cooking and a shirt and a sword. Cooking needs to be a shoemaking, but the shirt and the sword, if I develop both of these, I could advance this track. The cooking icon would be wasted, and then these would go over to this side. Now also, if I was developing these cards to advance this track, if I had a couple of hammers as well, this shirt has already been used. Like each icon can only be used 1 time. These 2 hammers cannot be satisfied by a single hammer icon. So you can see how the cooking icon would be wasted in this instance, but if I had this card and I wanted to develop it, it's art and a hammer. Well, those happen to be together, so I can develop that card by itself and advance that track. So again, when your turn starts, gain a card like normal, then you take actions like normal. After you're done with actions, you have the option to develop cards. And after you have either developed or declined to develop or whatever you're going to do there, then you gain coins equal to the number of coins revealed on your housing track and to the left of any of these track markers. And these markers can be advanced off the edge of the track. So that is how gameplay is changed. And then in this game mode, instead of having 9 turns each player, you will have 14 turns for each player. So it's going to go a bit longer. You're going to play until you've collected 14 cards each. And then at the end of the game, you'll score it up as normal. When you're scoring your trade icons, you count all of your cards regardless of whether you've developed them or not. At that point, it no longer matters. You just count all the icons. So, these icons would still count. These icons would still count. And then you also gain victory points for how many coins you have left at the end of the game. So you can see there's tiers here. So if you had 95 coins, for example, that's between 90 and 100, that would net you another 25 victory points. So this expansion is definitely the largest as it fundamentally changes really the whole way that the game is played. but that is the economy expansion for Six Sojourns. So I hope you found this video useful. I hope it's a good reference for you. Again, I'm kind of surprised that it didn't exist already, but I know I intend to use it as a reference going forward rather than looking through the rule book. I can just quickly skim through the different sections on the different modules for Six Sojourns here and decide what I'm going to play with. So if you found this useful, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Maybe send this video to somebody else you want to play Six Sojourns with. I'll put it up on Board Game Geek. You can leave a like or comment over there, and you can also pick up a Table for One micro badge if you like. And before I go, let me also thank my coffee contributors. So you can support Table for One on Ko-fi. That's ko-fi. There's a link in the description where you can make a contribution to the channel for as little as $1, and you could do that once or you can do that monthly. If you do it monthly, you will have your name on the screen like these 5 folks under the reserved seating category. That is for all my active monthly subscribers. And then the head of the table award goes to the top 10 contributors over the last 90 days. So thank you to all of my coffee contributors for continuing to make Table for One possible. I greatly appreciate it. And then if you'd like to see a solo playthrough of Six Sojourns, I'll have one of those coming out in a couple days. Again, subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you'd like to see me play solo through several of these modules, because I'm not using them all at once, I'll use a couple in that solo playthrough. If you want to see me do this several times, play on different maps, let me know in the comments, because I really like this game. The weight is not terribly high. The playtime is pretty reasonable. So this is a fairly easy one compared to some of the other stuff that I play. So happy to play it if that's something you want to see. But that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching Table for One. I hope it was helpful, and I will see you next time.